In 1999, Morpheus offered Neo a choice between a red pill and a blue pill. In 2018, this country fractured between red and blue. In 2022, I'm here to tell you that if you really want the truth, more voters are neither red or blue. Yet, they have no representation, no choice, and no options. They have to choose between candidates chosen by the red people or the blue people. I'm David Esrati, and I'm running for Congress as an American, as in red, white, and blue. I'm a veteran, an activist, and a small businessman. I'm asking you to join me in reminding the professional politicians in Congress who their bosses are. I support ranked choice voting, campaign finance reform, and a verified voter information system, all so we can stop having the best politicians money can buy. It's time to elect a veteran who will work for you, no matter what color they want to label you. Please go to electesrati.com and learn more. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. Jurassic Park, you thought those little baby dinosaurs were cute until they turned into out-of-control carnivores. That's sort of what happens to government when we elect people based on very expensive advertising campaigns and propaganda. I'm David Esrati. I'm a veteran and a small businessman running for Congress. You don't want professional ad people and pollsters to sway your vote. All those hot-button issues like gun control, abortion, borders are all politicized to stop you from voting rationally. And thinking rationally seems to be in short supply these days. Most Americans have been voting against their own best self-interest for a long time because we've allowed money to buy our leaders. 1 million Americans died in the last 2 years because our leaders couldn't lead. It wasn't that hard. Mask, distance, test, and then vaccinate. In an instant, we had billions to spend on healthcare for COVID, when for years we've been told we can't provide healthcare for everyone equally in this country. That's an unintended consequence of the pandemic. If you think about it, our government can pretty much do whatever it wants, or what the people who buy our politicians tell our leaders to do. We also had a ton of money to prop up businesses. The next thing you know, it turns out that a living wage was not only possible, but necessary. As a small businessman who won't sell you out to corporate interests and lobbyists, I can tell you that it's time to fully understand the consequences of companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Google and their effect on small business, and to remind you that small business is the #1 creator of jobs in this country. So this next election, don't trust this ad or any other political ad. Do your homework and think before you vote. It's time to put this ad man in Congress because I know that the best advertising is based on the truth, not the size of the budget or payola. Or you can just vote based on who has the money to buy their way into Congress and live with the consequences. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. Hi, I'm David Esrati, and I'm running for Congress. And today I am modeling the new shirt, Elections, Not Auctions, and of course on the back, Esrati wants you to think before you vote. These are available on the website. We haven't got it all quite set up, but if you donate more than $100, you can have this or the one I was wearing yesterday, which is the Do Something shirt. So, we're going to talk about economic development, or some might say corporate welfare. I've been watching politicians bend over backwards to provide economic development dollars to major businesses to relocate, to expand, to grow, and to do all kinds of things. And for the most part, I think what's been happening is the poor people are supporting the rich people. Need examples? Well, I've got plenty. Let's start off with the city of Dayton that decided it was a food desert over on the west side. So they talked to Kroger, Kroger built a brand new store on Gettysburg. The deal was 20 years of tax-free property and whatever else they threw in there. And the moment the 20 years was up, they closed it down and it sat as an eyesore for another 15 years. Absolute disaster. Not only did we lose a grocery store, but we had an eyesore and something that wasn't revitalized until just recently when Sugar Creek Packing bought it as additional warehouse space and cleaned it up. Need another example. And again, these are plenty. How about when NCR was lured to Georgia with a $100 million incentive? All those people at NCR who've been here forever, the company that's been here forever, had to make a decision. Do we move? Do we stay? What happens? NCR moves down, I think it was to Alpharetta first. And then they hit Georgia up again and moved to downtown Atlanta because people didn't want to live in Alpharetta. They wanted to live down, work downtown. So they did it twice. If you look at the stock price of NCR, it's never quite been the same. We had economic development dollars move Reynolds and Reynolds out to the research park from downtown Dayton. And then they got a sweetheart deal from the Board of Education to buy a building that hadn't been appraised or evaluated for over $15 million, which they've recently bailed out of. And now we're going to see it go for pennies on the dollar to Sinclair after they've spent extensive time and money rehabbing one of the other buildings across the street. I'm not so sure this economic development thing is doing much for us. We're spending a lot of money, poor people's money, to move people around, rearrange the deck chairs, and it's not really generating results. Other problems we have with this is that we see programs put into place like historic tax credits that seem to be at the whim and fancy of whoever's in power at the time. And if you don't kiss the right ring, you don't get the tax credits. I've seen developers live and die by these things. So how do we solve this? And it's really not that complicated. The problem is we're allowing influence and prestige and all kinds of other things to enter into the picture. Oh, we landed a corporate headquarters, or we did this, or we created 150 jobs. But you didn't really create those, okay? You moved them. Creating jobs is what small businesses do when they start up from nothing and they hire people. Now, if you want to say a company's going to hire more people if they move downtown to your new office, well, they were probably going to hire those people anyways. And what you're doing is subsidizing either the company or the real estate company that developed the building downtown that they're moving into. All this stuff, all these metrics, and the head of the metrics department was always either the Dayton Development Coalition or the Dayton Downtown Dayton Partnership. They love to say, oh, we've done this, we've done that. You know, they talked about the deal on baseball and how it's done all these things. Well, it's taken 25 years. The Dragons have reinvested to fix parts of the stadium and do things. And all that development, it took 20 plus years to spring up around it. That's a long time. Now, if you took those millions of dollars and made them available in other ways to small businesses to create jobs and help small businesses with things like free payroll software, or better yet, free accounting software. Do you realize that Intuit is charging somewhere between $50 and $100 a month to all these small businesses to use QuickBooks? We used to have a ledger. It was really simple, and we could do all the accounting. But now we've got to have integration with banks and credit cards and, you know, payroll, and have all this stuff put together to create all kinds of reports that the government may or may not want, or to measure your own business
And the reality is we used to be able to buy software and not rent it. Maybe it's time the government created an open source software for payroll to get people started in business the right way without beating them over the head with costs that just provide compliance for governmental regulation. And that's what Republicans like to complain about. Oh, the regulations, oh, the restrictions, oh, all the problems you have following the rules. Well, we can simplify that. And by the way, this is a live stream, and yes, you can say hello, you can ask questions, you can give me examples. I'd love to talk to you about this. Recently, the state of Ohio just is investing $2 billion to build an Intel plant in cornfields outside of New Albany. Now, you say, well, that's a lot of money. And great, this is phenomenal. We're bringing American jobs back to America. And oh yeah, Americans are going to be building this stuff, and so we're secure from the Chinese. Those are all great, true, and fine. But here's the fact. You can't eat microchips. Those cornfields that we keep expanding out into and the wheat fields, those are important. What we do a horrible job with is concentrating new business and development back into the core city, close to workers. So what's going to happen with that Intel plant? They're going to have to build wider roads, have more traffic, more infrastructure all around it, and it just keeps gobbling things up. Whereas if they could find and reuse old spaces or tear down old factories and build new ones where they were, we'd be a lot better off. This expansion into greenfields has so many additional costs, never mind the fact that we're losing tillable land. Ohio is a farm state. We do provide food for the rest of the world right now. So let's put that plant someplace where it could be near employees, on public transit lines. There are a multitude of old abandoned steel plants in Cleveland, down in the flats. Take over one of those and build your chip forge. Or come over to Dayton, where the Tip Top Bakery is still sitting over there behind St. E's, and tear that monstrosity down and build something new. Or on the old Delco plant sitting there on right off Edwin C. Moses. There's lots of locations where they could have built that plant with ready access to so many things without having to expand the infrastructure requirements. I've talked about this before, but you know, if you want to expand out into farmland, you should be forced to either develop the same amount of space inside cities that's been abandoned or vacated, or clear out blight at a lesser credit per square foot. There are ways to balance things and to make it all work better, but we don't think like that. We have a very short horizon. We need to think longer, farther, and think deeper about where we're going to put these plants and how close they are to workers. Because as far as I know, out in New Albany, that's not where you're going to find a whole bunch of people with experience making chips. You're going to have to start from scratch. And where do those people live? Well, we don't know yet. But I do know that there ain't no public transit out to that cornfield right now. So we're just encouraging more use of cars, more gas, more roads, more drive, more sprawl, more everything else. So back to what's the solution? It's pretty simple. First off, you have to have a rubric that's one size fits all. You do this, you get that. We don't want the politicians paying back political favors for their donations. We want to say, here are the parameters. If you invest this much and you do this and we have to do this, we're willing to do that in addition to make it better. But we're not going to compete with every other state. We're not going to keep this fight going on where we're just putting money into CEOs' pockets. And here's the most important part. If we're going to put all this investment into your company, we're either going to take over some ownership for a while for the payback, or we're going to put restrictions on how much you can pay your corporate genius that bilked the taxpayers out of billions. In other words, no, you can't be paid 300 times what your median employee is. You can only be paid 20 times. And you have to do that for a period of time equal to the time of the amount of the money that we invest. This is not carte blanche for getting money so that you can grow your business at a discount. You're putting small other businesses at a disadvantage. And that was the whole premise of America, that we had an equal playing field and all men are created equal and all businesses are created equal. So let's see some changes to this corporate welfare / economic development dollar game that actually gets down to real rubric, real numbers, real returns on our investment, real payback. And if you don't meet all these qualifications and rules, there's this thing called clawback, and we get really good at it. So I'm not going to just ramble for the sake of rambling. That's my 2 cents on economic development and corporate welfare. I live in a community that has had, quote, economic development dollars put into it. They did 2 rounds of rehab-a-rama in this neighborhood, but it's only recently that they're replacing the lead pipes that are in the streets. Those are things government needs to do first before we worry about all that other economic development, because that's a safety issue. And as to those homes that they built, some of them have done okay. And, you know, yeah, the holes are filled that were in our community, but it's not nearly what was the impetus for the true gentrification of South Park. And to tell you the truth, gentrification isn't all it's cracked up to be. I liked my old neighbors a lot more than some of my new neighbors. There was a sense of camaraderie between us. We were all working toward the same thing. We got out together and got our hands dirty over and over and over. There is the key to true economic development. Invest in people, the social capital. That's where you get your biggest return. So, unlike Mike Turner, I believe in making college education affordable. I believe in government service for all when you graduate high school. I believe in helping small businesses compete with big businesses. And I believe that people should have opportunities to thrive even without buying a politician. There's a reason over 20 billionaires and counting have invested in Mike Turner's campaign. It's because they're going to get something back. I want to get something back to all of you. 1, your dignity, and 2, your tax dollars going where it's going to do the best work for you. Because I believe government is about providing good services to the community, providing things that we all own, things that are important to us, that keep us safe, keep us healthy. That's what we should invest in. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to wrap it up. Remember, few things. T-shirts available. 2, electesrati.com has all my positions. If you go to /donate, you can donate, get a shirt, or just donate any amount. You can go to subscribe, electesrati.com /subscribe to get my weekly newsletter. And I promise it's not all about asking you for money or the sky is going to fall. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit the bell for notifications every time we go live. That's real important if you want to join in. And I really want to thank you for taking this time on this Friday. And also on the events tab, I've started to put the events I'll be at to talk directly to people, and you can come and register to vote, donate, t-shirt, stickers, literature, etc. at those events. And I will be having a fundraiser soon. So if you want to be in on that, please go to electesrati.com /subscribe and you will learn about it first. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. I'm David Esrati. I'm running for Congress. Thank you.